Now let's move this into something I'm very excited about, and I'm so happy to be able to share with you and bring this out to the equine world. I'm very, very excited. So each horse has a Sensory Soundness score. What is a Sensory Soundness score? The Sensory Soundness score is a unique grading system appraising the total impact stress is having on the horse. All important because stress affects everything. Calculated from 12 data points measuring the proficiency of the sensory system in both managing and filtering emotional and physical stressors, because they do combine. The Sensory Soundness score is revealing of the horse's ability to perform tasks without the onset of mental fatigue. This is a very important score, gauge, monitoring device, okay? I'm going to read this to you again. There's a lot of important things here in this little bit. The Sensory Soundness score is a unique grading system appraising the total impact stress is having on the horse. I calculate this through 12 data points measuring the proficiency of the sensory system in both managing and filtering emotional and physical stressors, the total horse. The Sensory Soundness score is revealing of the horse's ability to perform tasks without the onset of mental fatigue. The last thing that you want, the biggest problem that you have with your training, is not a behavior problem. It is a mental fatigue problem. And why does that happen? Mental fatigue comes from an incomplete sensory system. All right? Too much energy is being spent on small things that we need to mitigate. We need to help the horse through. All right? When we're doing a mapping, we are looking for the base horse. Who is that horse? We know what the horse is. We want to know who they are, how they're functioning. We cannot help our horses. We cannot properly train our horses unless we know who they are. Okay? This is another component to the sensory soundness mapping process that gives us a whole bunch of information about who the horse is, because it is essential to know how fast mental fatigue is going to set in, why and where, and what to do about it. Okay, I have a scoring chart here, and you're going to have access to this as well. Sensory Soundness scoring chart. I have 3 tiers. Tier 1 is high risk of mental fatigue interference. Okay, I do a number system. The Sensory Soundness score is a number system, is a score system between 0 to 100. Obviously 0 being like never, and 100 being almost very rarely, probably never as well at the highest end. Tier 1, high risk of mental fatigue interference. This goes from 0 to 35, equals dysfunctional. Very difficult to train, corrupted sensory sequencing. Okay, 0 to 35 is dysfunctional, very difficult to train, corrupted sensory sequencing. Wouldn't it be nice to know this information before you bought a horse? 36 to 40 is below average. Training disruptions, interrupted sensory sequencing. Again, there's a difference. 0 to 35 has corrupted, legit corruption in the sensory sequencing. All right? 36 to 40 is below average. There are going to be training disruptions, probably many, and many interrupted sensory sequences. Okay, the sensory sequence is interrupted by many things, but it's not fully corrupted, but it is easily interrupted. Okay, tier 2 is moderate risk of mental fatigue interference. Then we go from 41 to 55, and again, I put this together over many, many years, and it's super exciting to be able to take that information and quantify it with numbers to help translate the information to practical applications. So I'm really excited by what I think is one of the most groundbreaking things I've ever done in my life. Tier 2, moderate risk of mental fatigue interference. 41 to 55 is functional, adequate trainability, modest retainment within learned behaviors. Adequate trainability, modest retainment within learned behaviors. They can maintain, if you teach them the right way, learned behaviors, they can have a good, modest aptitude for being able to repeat it and associate properly. 56 to 70 is average, right in the middle average pretty much for a horse's psychology. It's good trainability. Sensory sequences support versatility of learned behaviors. This is a little bit notched up. So now we have the learned behaviors that have a little bit more versatility. The 41 to 55 range is horses that, they're going to be very poignant on their learned behaviors. You're going to have to be very consistent with that. where a horse 56 to 70 has more trainability because they have more versatility within that. They have more aptitude and capacity to have loose associations to get the same goal. 71 to 85 is above average. This is athletic minded. This is the first tier. This is the first scoring level that you get an naturally athletic minded horse. This is for elevated performance potential, heightened emotional sensitivity. These horses are a notch up. They have the athletic mindset. Okay, so elevated performance, heightened emotional sensitivity. Now, you got to keep in mind, this scoring system is not just for the horse, it's also for us, because we need to know what type of mind we're getting into. Do I have a high school education and I'm trying to go in and teach a PhD class? Okay, we have to keep that in mind too. We have to have our own humility that says, well, you know what? I love this horse. This horse looks great. It's got the great breeding, but I'm not ready for this horse. I can't train or teach this horse a whole lot. Okay, I'm going to be falling short. I went to high school. This horse has a PhD in athletics. All right, it's about being responsible. And tier 3 is a very low risk of mental fatigue interference. Okay, this is where you don't always want to be here because you have to be a darn good, have really good horsemanship, I should say. You can spit that out. To really function here, you got to be top notch yourself. 86 to 96 equals highly athletic, above average performance ability, fast rhythm, psychological fluency. These horses are not going to be forgiving. All right, they're going to be fast. Boom, 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 boom. They have fast sensory sequencing. They process things even better the faster that they're moving, the more action that they have. Okay, some of these horses can be very misunderstood because standing still and waiting for you to get on in cross ties and saddle and grooming is just not their thing. But you put them into action, they go. Okay, and you need to be ready for that. So the issues that we have is if we have an 86, a horse that scores 86. And you're used to a horse that scores 55, all right? They're not going to stand for you the same way. They're not going to have the same action. They're not going to have the same mindset, all right? We're talking about, again, a ninth grade football player or rugby player, and we're trying to, we're used to that, and then we go and we bring in a professional athlete, and they're going to be like very bored with us very quickly, So we have to be responsible. But we have to understand what we're dealing with. Because we tend to overcorrect for the wrong things. We can punish the wrong things. We don't want to punish who the horse is. We want to help them become better at who they are. And understanding them helps us know the difference in what we're trying to do. We should never punish a horse anyway. We have to guide them, enrich and nurture. The ultimate, which is something you'll very rarely see, is the 97 to 100. Now, I want to say I went back earlier and I talked about the less than 5% of horses at the highest functionality I talked about earlier. This is this tier 3. This is the less than 5% horses. So they're out there. I've met them. 97 to 100. Elite athletic performance ability, sensory efficient and balanced. This is the area where independent nature kicks in. And the interesting thing about horses at this top tier is they can be perceived as underachievers. But it's not the horse's fault. Is the horse the underachiever, or are we as the enrichment and the coaches and the riders and the handlers the underachievers? Okay, when the horse is naturally at a high level, we have to up our game as well. And if we're not able to do that, if we're not capable of doing that, it's not the horse's fault. Okay, there's a lot of high-end. I've been around a lot of high-end athletes around the world in all the different disciplines, from Olympic horses to Kentucky Derby to Breeders' Cup. To you name it, around the world. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of talent, mental and physical talent, goes to the wayside because the humans are not up to the task. They don't understand them. They don't know how to train them, how to coach them, how to enrich them, and how to deal with them. And that misunderstanding leads to a lot of, subpar performances. And otherwise, like, well, this horse has all the talent. But, it's like any kind of a team. You have to put the talented people around your talented athlete. Okay, so it's important to keep that in mind. And the other thing to keep note of is that the separation between horses, especially as you get closer to the top, becomes smaller and smaller. It's interesting to note that, yes, seasoning, training, and age do influence what we see expressed in any horse. However, the core value, that psychological baseline from whence their expressions come, remains the same throughout their lives. Who they are determines what they can become. Understanding their benchmark herd dynamic helps us in every aspect of our relationship with horses and is essential for making informed decisions, whether we're matching horse to human, human to horse, or horse to discipline. You know, I get asked all the time, I say, well, people say I have a yearling, I have a 3-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, 10-year-old horse, whatever the case may be, okay? Yes, as horses age and get seasoning, they're going to have layers and layers and layers of associated stimulus and learned behaviors. Some will have traumas, some will have anticipations to things, okay? That's all very true, and these will change, they will alter. They will alter the way the horse expresses, but they won't change who they are. Okay, the foundation is the foundation. We build upon that foundation of the horse. That does not change. Learned experiences, age, seasoning, things like that alter the manner of expression, but it does not alter from whence it comes. Okay, the core is still the core, and we have to dig through the core. The problem that we have is that we try to remedy the later things that we're seeing. We try to remedy and fix the exhaust, if you will, the expressions that we see, but we're not understanding and getting to the root of where they come from. Why do they manifest that way? Why are they being expressed that way? What is the spin? You know, every horse, every psychology will have a different spin on the same type of stress, the same type of learned behaviors that we're trying to teach. Every horse is different because of that. If not, it would be a conveyor belt of the same, but it's not. And we need to get deep inside the psychology, understand the fundamental workings of the sensory system, their emotional state, their herd dynamic, all these things combined, their sensory soundness. We need to know what that capacity is to understand why they're doing what they're doing. We cannot fix a problem by just looking at the problem. We can't fix a problem by looking at the cause. We have to dig deeper than that. We can't put together a proper training program by putting together a training program on what we assume that we're seeing. Yes, what we're seeing is what we're seeing, but it may not be the truth, okay? I have to keep that in mind at all times.